Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 7 preview show. I'm Chris. Hey Kieran, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm alright. The week's not been too bad considering the wildcard was a bit of a disaster this week. I think
Yep.
I'm feeling alright about the upcoming game week, to be honest. Yeah, you did well considering considering no wildcard, but your team just looked like a wildcard team anyway.
That's just good planning, right?
That's good planning. Yeah, but I'll bring it up on screen now. Talk me through the successes, I suppose.
Yeah, so 66 points. I went from 1.8 million just outside the million range of just 1.034 million. So yeah, I'm close to the inside the top 1 million. Yeah, better than most content creators seem to be doing at the moment, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so 66 points. Henderson let down again. I think he's got one return all season. It's really annoying, but it's what it is. Yeah, Trent, Saliba doing nothing. Porro getting 5, decent enough. Rodgers obviously returning, which is good. Salah captain with Haaland blank is delicious, obviously.
Yeah.
Abuemo coming in for Jota. I think that was down in points, I guess, because Jota got 2 assists, was it in the end, or a goal and assist? I think it was
2 assists, I think.
2 assists, yeah. So yeah, is what it is on that, I guess. Saka blanking, disappointing, but he did create a lot of chances, so he's obviously very unlucky. And then Watkins continuing to do well. Havertz, I mean, I was lucky to get those points, I suppose, at the end, right at the death, just to get that sort of tap in off his thigh or whatever it was. But thankful for it. And yeah, so a second green in a row. Hopefully that can continue. Yeah, just things to be done and thinking about making moves this week. We'll see.
You got Havertz, didn't you, in this week as well? Was that right?
Yeah, I did. That was for God, who did I sell?
Isak, maybe?
Isak, that's it. Yes, yeah. Isak was there was news of him not starting beforehand, so I was just like, I can't. It was between him and Solanke, and Solanke I think ended up on a bit more, didn't he? But I was just looking at.
No, I think Solanke had 6. Maybe he had 7
6
actually.
as well. Okay, fair. But yeah, I was thinking short term. I kind of preferred the Arsenal fixtures if I was going to wild card in game week 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So I'd just go for Havertz for the meantime. And it was fine in the end. 6 points is what it is.
Yeah, it was nice. You're crazy talking about wild in 6 or 7. Before we come on the show a minute ago, you were doing wildcard drafts with no Haaland, no Salah.
It feels to me like an easy way to go.
Yeah, but, no, I like it. We'll do when we get to that point, we can talk about it. But yeah, it was other non-expensive premiums. I can believe it. It's looked quite good, to be honest. All right, let's have a look at the wild card. I mean, I say it was a disaster. It was pretty bad. I think the reason the game week was bad anyway was because if you didn't have Palmer, you didn't do that well, really. How did we look? With 43 points that ended on, Watkins and Rodgers were probably like and Buemo were the big ticks of the wild card because those were, well, I say Rodgers and Buemo, they contributed most of my points. Haaland obviously blank, and talk a bit more about captaincy a bit later. Diaz blanked. Trent, who I had already, Gabriel obviously blanked. I'm pleased I didn't go double defence. Like I said last week, I was never keen on double defence, and their defensive numbers didn't look great. Although Justin's like worldies were worldies, I still don't fancy that. And I was Milivenkovic was my outsidey punt for that 4.5 million.
Go for him. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it was so disappointing because the last move I made of the wildcard was Saturday morning, and it was to get rid of Robinson from players who've got better fixtures, and I didn't fancy Fulham's like upcoming fixtures. And typically Robinson kept a clean sheet, got a bonus point, and yeah, I thought the penalty decision against Forest was pretty harsh. And their XGC, apart from the penalty, because I think that's worth like 0.9, was something like 0.6 again. So their defence is still really good. And I'm weighing up whether to play him this weekend against Chelsea. But yeah, Diaz blanked, Saka blanked, Calvert-Lewin got that yellow. That was another frustration. Like I looked at McNeil on wildcard, obviously, and he had like no XG. He was maybe just going to be assisting, and yeah, Calvert-Lewin blanking. But you know, it's okay. I feel like I like the team. It was just a bad game week for them. So yeah,
just outcome the wrong thing. Like most wildcarders got, you're lucky you picked up Watkins, I guess, as well. Like because a lot of wildcarders didn't. They were in the minus 40 points areas, weren't they? So, so yeah, at least you got the sort of leg up on that, I guess.
And I've got a price rise out of him, which is quite handy. And I worked, I've got more, I had more. It shows how what shambles my team was before. If I hadn't have played the wild card, I would have got like 2 fewer points. So at least, like, I see some people say, I played the wild card and I lost like 20 points. I don't even have 20 points to lose. It was that bad. So anyway, I slipped down to 3 mil from 2.3, but I quite like it. Like I said to you earlier in the week, I think that because we've got such variance in premiums and like filler around the premiums, there's going to be like these big game week swings where you like drop or go up like 20 or 30 points worth of places. Anyway, should we talk about the big exciting player of this game week, or and maybe perhaps the start of this season, Coley P?
Yeah, so Palmer. Yeah, so we're gonna do like a sort of dive into like, is he worth investing now? Obviously, with his fixtures, they're kind of rough-ish. Like 7 to 11 is Forest at home, Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, Arsenal at home. So that's obviously on paper looks pretty bad. But Game Week 12 plus, like that's where if you're hedging and not going to go for him, Game Week 12 plus seems like an area where you should go for him because their fixtures turn. It's basically good until the end of the season. So it's Leicester away, Aston Villa at home, Southampton away, Tottenham away, Brentford at home, Everton away, Fulham at home, Ipswich away, Crystal Palace away, Bournemouth, and then Wolves, both at home, double homes, those two. So, so basically, as I said, until the end of the season, like you could pretty much just lock him in, to be honest, and he's probably going to get points, and I think he's going to be good to go. But
because his difficult fixtures are like spread out. You're right. You're not like
exactly.
back to back.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Yeah, it's not like a run of bad fixtures. It's just one, and then like 4 games later there's like a bad one or something. So Chelsea's form in general, like 4 wins, 1 draw, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, which is obviously good. Kind of going a little bit under the radar. Chelsea's form, their XG as a team is 11.17, which is 4th. The XGC is 6.7, which is 7th, and then they've created 24 big chances, which is 2nd of all teams. And they've got 310 FPL points from their assets, which is 3rd overall. So I would say the numbers seem to be suggesting that Maresca is starting to settle this team down. Obviously, Palmer is obviously a big part of that, like pretty much their best player, their key man. And at the other end of the pitch, like it's looking like it's sort of starting to get better as well. Obviously, bar Sanchez and his 2 awful mistakes. So,
God, they were so bad, weren't they? They're just awful. Yeah.
That's Sanchez for you, I guess. I'm not sure why he's made him his number 1 keeper, and there's no question. It just seems strange. So Palmer, he's 10.7 million now, 44% owned. He's 44% is like that's a lot bigger because most of the Twitter sphere and sort of the content creators, most have just not owned him. And 44% is just the casual crowd, I guess. And they've just been schooling everyone because of it. Because all the content creators, including us, are just down in the millions, and it's looking woeful. But so he's grabbed top scoring mid off in the game at the moment off Salah, and he's probably not going to let that go. Well, at least I don't think so. He's on 61 points, so he's had 2, 17, 6, 3, 8, and 25. So there is obviously some games where he'll blank, but some games will get a just consistent 1 return, and then he's got those pop off games in him of the 17 and 25s. 1 assist from Palmer last week, and he could have matched the highest ever single game week FPL score of 29, which was by Salah versus Watford.
And he had a really good chance to score as well. That 5th one, he was like 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper and just put it like slightly.
Yes,
wide.
I remember that. Yeah, so I think everyone was shocked when he missed that.
Yeah, he could have a 30-point. Yeah, it was mad.
And then I did something where I was just like looking at kind of like Palmer versus Haaland for just because obviously Haaland is the most expensive player in the game, or that ever has been, and then Palmer is obviously a lot cheaper. He's about 4.6 million cheaper at the moment, and then over the last 2 seasons, so 22 and 23, and then 24 so far, Palmer's got 45 goals / assists and goal involvements. Haaland's got 45 as well, and Palmer is 4.6 million cheaper, and obviously, if you go for Palmer and not Haaland, you got all that 4.6 million to put elsewhere.
And you got the extra points for a midfielder as well.
Exactly. So in perspective, like of that angle, Haaland makes it look like he's probably not
Mm.
or needed or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, 10 goals and assists so far, which they're tied for the 2 seasons, and they're tied in this season as well. 10 goals and assists, a goal involvements between both of them. Yeah, so Palmer's XG is 3.26, which is 7th, 18 shots, which is 8th, 7 big chances, which is 7th, an XA of 1.5, which is 7th, 17 key passes, which is 5th, and then 8 big chances created, which is 2nd. So from all of those, he's kind of like 7th, 8th, 7th, 5th.
Yeah.
And then he's only 2nd in the 8 big chances created. So from those sort of numbers, it looks like maybe he's considerably overperforming. He's got 10 returns for 4.8 XGI. And the stats, obviously, as we've said there, that looks like he's absolutely overperforming what he's doing. That's kind of what we thought. Bruno was getting like really good XGI, but not getting any of the returns, whereas Palmer is. So, yeah, his 2 lowest XGI games came versus Man City in Game Week 1, which was 0.26, and then versus Bournemouth. I can't remember exactly what game week that was, but he got 0.03 in that one. So he was barely involved at all in that one.
He had an XG of 0.0 in that game as well, I can see here.
Okay, right, yeah. So, but in those 2 games is where he played off the right. And so that's clearly not his position where he should be playing. And obviously the rest of them, so the 4 others he's played through the middle as the 10, and that he's got his returns from. And then in that last game versus Brighton, he had an XGI of 3.03, which is absolutely huge. And like Haaland's best this season compared is 1.83, and Palmer's on 3.03. That's like massive. And then Salah's best this season for XGI has been 1.37. So he's just like that one game is just absolutely huge. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, so is he worth investing now or waiting until game week 12 plus? So at 44% like ownership, his effective ownership is only going to rise as well. Like people are just seeing this now, and they're all just going to start buying him.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely going to start to score points, or will score points over the next 5. But I from his stats, I don't think he's necessarily essential.
No.
What do you think about his essentialness compared with these fixtures and stuff? I mean, I've still got more stuff to talk about, but yeah, go on.
I think from a purely fixtures point of view, I think it's obviously been blown out of proportion a little bit because of the massive haul. I feel like if he'd got like another 8-pointer, we probably wouldn't be talking about him as much. And like 4 goals in 1 half is just like unprecedented. So obviously, what rate is he going to continue at?
But we've seen him do this before, right? He's had these massive pop-off games like multiple times now.
Yeah, he's better than, let's say, Saka at the moment for like a captaincy option, because you know he can pop off a bit like unlike Saka. I think probably, like you say, looking at the fixtures, there's probably only 2 at the like in the next next 5 that I would be, I would not expect a lot from him. So not even saying he's going to blank, but just not expect a lot, and that's Liverpool away and Arsenal at home. Forest, like we've seen, like I mentioned at the top of the show, are good defensively. They're definitely going to be nowhere near open as Brighton. So I'd be surprised if he had more than 1 return this weekend.
Yeah. So I've got some numbers on those fixtures, right? So Forest XGC is 5.9, which is 4th at best in the league. Liverpool's the fixture afterwards, XGC of 4.2 is best in the league right now. Newcastle's XGC 9.4, which is 12th. So you can see him getting something there. Man United's XGC is 11.1, which is 17th worst. So Newcastle and Man United, those 2 fixtures of this 5 look like he can certainly get points. Arsenal's XGC is 6.9, which is 8th.
That's not as good as I would expect.
It's not as good as it's been, but we sort of think they are an elite defense. They kept a clean sheet against PSG last night in the Champions League at home. So, like, that's probably going to be a game where he's not going to get much. But he could, because they've not been anywhere near as good. Like Arsenal's defense, because I'm going to talk about it later, they've conceded 95 shots this season, which is 17th worst in the league.
Wow.
So, yeah, like Palmer could be getting loads of shots. He could be getting like putting it through to Jackson. Like there's chances there in that game as well. So Forest, like, I mean, obviously they are good defensively, but historically, like, great. You don't think that's a bad fixture, really.
No.
Liverpool, like, as well, they've been good this season, but at the same time, they haven't been great at defense for ages.
They were sloppy against Wolves as well, weren't they?
Exactly. So, like, you could see him get a goal on the counter and that. So, like, when you look at these fixtures a little bit like closer, as though they look bad on paper, they're not as bad as they look. Like Man
No.
United game, he scored a hat trick against them last season,
Yeah.
and he got 1 goal and 1 assist versus Newcastle last season. So it's really hard to like. I say, as much as I say I don't think he's essential because of the numbers on paper. Like maybe he is, because these fixtures, when you look at it more, like his ownership is only going up, and he's only going to get more expensive. I don't know.
Why do you think we miss? Why do you think, like, in general, like let's say the X or Twitter sphere of owners? I mean, maybe people in the chat actually own him, but why do you think he was like down and not like template at the start of the season? Because his price wasn't bad.
Probably fixtures. I think most people were playing fixtures. Their fixtures weren't that great to start with. He had City away, didn't he? Like to start with, and just people were gonna possibly get onto him from like 3 onwards, or 2 or 3 onwards, and I don't know. Just like people had other. Yeah, they didn't. They looked at that City game, probably thought, let's avoid him for now, and then they probably stuck with their team as it was because they probably had decent enough weeks, and they thought, I picked that team for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, but the casuals, like we said, like the people who don't follow content creators just saw Palmer of such a good season last year, picked him
again,
and he smashed it for them. So yeah, it's probably just I don't know, just a symptom of people like us who play the fixtures rather than the player, I guess, and the form. I don't know. It's tough.
I think as well. Also, probably for me, it was hard to judge him after 1 season under Pochettino, and then he was going to come in under a new manager and they'd had that awful pre-season. Like, Nkunku was the Chelsea pick, wasn't he, at the start of the season? And there was no talk about Palmer, like, Nkunku will play and he'll be popular. No one was, and it was like people wanted Chelsea coverage, and we just sort of dismissed Palmer because he was so expensive. But you're right. I feel like I don't know if he's I don't know. Obviously, essential is a difficult word to use at this like point in the season, but his minutes have been better than I expected. Like, even with all the new signings, the fact that he played 90 against Brighton, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and City. 4 of 6 he's played 90, the other 82, and then 63. Hasn't he been left out of their Europa Conference squad as well? So he's not going to have like a big workload on. So you expect him to start. I think basically I feel like I can't go without him for much longer because he's going to kill me. Basically.
I agree. I think a lot of people saw that who were wildcarding in 6 saw that 63-minute sub against West Ham and thought, can't be having that for 10.7 million of just like this guy who's just going to come off every week around 60 odd minutes because he's got Nkunku and whoever else on the bench and João Felix just on the bench rotting there. Like, he's just going to come off every week at 60 minutes because their squad is so stacked. But that surely is just not going to be the case if he's going to, not play this Conference League stuff. His minutes should just go up. Like, it's clear now, and it should be clear to Maresca that like play him through the middle, play him 90 minutes, and he's going to get you. He's going to just carry your team.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I know. I'm looking at him and thinking that maybe not for the Liverpool game. I can maybe put it off against Forest this weekend, but for Newcastle at home, I'm feeling like I need a plan to get him in my team from there, because I fancy the game against Newcastle at home, United away, and Arsenal. And then, like you say, after that, it's like 2 months until the end of January or even longer, where you don't really need to worry about him. And without the extra Europa League games or Conference League games, he's comfortable.
Yeah, I think I've got it down here of like 3 of the next 5 is versus top defenses in the league, but from game week 9 you could probably get him if you're wary of Forest and Liverpool. Game week 9 just like
good.
Don't worry about the Arsenal one. Just put him in. But the Newcastle Man United fixtures look great.
I'll have a look at who Haaland's got in game week 9 in a minute, because I feel like people will go there from him potentially. And a few comments in the chat from Dominic Lewin, who said, first time he's tuned in. We were back last season. Perhaps we haven't come up as much, but we did have a big subscriber drop off because we didn't stream for, was it 2 seasons maybe? Or a season?
Yeah, I think it was 2
seasons, yeah. So nice to have you back. Haaland in game week 9. So has Southampton at home. That's a juicy one you wouldn't want to get rid of him for. So I feel like there's obviously merit to get him in the team just because of his price now. But I'm definitely not going to rush to do it game week 7 or game week 8. But game week 9, I would pinpoint and say, yeah, I need to have him locked in by then. What do you think? Like in terms of when you want to get him?
Palmer?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm considering a wild card this week just to get him really now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I am considering it. I've looked into these numbers like when I put down, I don't think he's essential in my notes. I just like looking at them closer and just thinking like, his output over the last 2 seasons is just only going up. He's tying with Haaland and he's a midfielder getting more points. So, yeah, for me, it's just like people are going to keep getting him. People are not going to worry about the fixtures. I just need to get onto it because eventually he's going to be like, he should be in the sort of the conversation of captain, like with Salah. Well. Like he should be like a 12 million asset with Salah. Like that's where he should be, and people would have got him from the start, to be honest. If he was up there. Yeah.
No, I like it. No, I'm thinking at around game week. Like I say, game week 9, I can change my structure to get to him by upgrading Diaz, downgrading Watkins and Calvert-Lewin. So yeah, we'll see.
Tough downgrades.
Yeah. What about people in the chat? Be interesting to know just from the people who've got like talking in the chat now, if what sort of combination of premiums they're on. I suppose that's anyone over 10 million. Be quite interesting to know. All right, should we jump on and talk about another team? Or is there anything more you want to talk
an
about?
Interesting one, isn't there?
Yeah,
with Slanky and stuff.
Definitely. So just a little, quite a lot bit on Spurs really, because I think their victory at United was obviously helped by the sending off, but they looked really, good before that and good after that. So in the last 4 game weeks, they're top for XG and joint top for shots in the box, and they've actually had 3.39 expected goals conceded is actually the 4th best in the league. So since losing to Arsenal, they've turned it round, playing well and have good fixtures. So if I just bring up their list now, just look at Solanke.
Before we talk about, should we talk about Solanke and his
price
rise?
Frustrating. How?
I just mad. It just makes me so frustrated.
Yeah.
That he dropped probably like it was sold by roughly like 1 million plus, I think, people, and he didn't drop in price. And then like 1 week of like 2 good performances, he's up to 7.6. It's a piss take, honestly.
Yeah, it is a
I don't know what else. Like it just really annoys me that is the case. Like there must have been something going on there that they've just held it back.
Froze it.
It just
surely because he joined from Tottenham and from Bournemouth, and they were like, they can't have a Spurs central striker. It's going to be 7.5, but that's why. Why would they fix it like that?
I don't know. Like, the only thing I can think of is that he got red flagged of that injury, but I can't remember if it actually was red flagged. I don't know if I'm making that up.
I think it was like it was a dark orange. But Pedro was the same. Pedro had like a red flag, I think, the other day, and he dropped in price.
Yeah, so I don't know. I hate it, and it's just not cool.
Well, I go on his page now, and you can see he had like 2 weeks of 850,000, let's say roughly. So that's 1.6 mil plus another 350. So he's had 2 million transfers out, and
there you go.
He's had less than 200,000 transfers in. So he's had 10 times the amount of transfers out as he has transfers in, and he's gone up in price.
That's a joke. That's ridiculous.
It's crazy. I know.
God.
Anyway, but yeah, the fixture's good, and he's a player I think. We both owned him at the start of the season for that Leicester game, and since he's come back in, he has looked good. He's been wasteful, but he's looked good. He could have done a lot more. So starting this weekend away at really leaky Brighton now, and like the narrative of Brighton has totally changed now. Like they've conceded 6 in the last 2 games.
Yeah,
I think the worry was the fact they conceded 2 against a Forest side who have just blanked at home to Fulham.
Yeah, I feel bad making the fixture the move to Dunk a couple of weeks ago. That was I didn't see that coming.
I know. Well, they've had well, they got like a rough patch of fixtures, but from game week 12 they're good. But yeah, they're just not been good like in the last couple, and they blanked at home to Ipswich. I think it's strange how the narrative changes because they had that good opening day win against Everton. They had the last minute victory against United, and then obviously they drew against 10 men Arsenal, and you kind of thought, oh shit, Brighton are looking good this season. This new manager's a wizard. And then they just got absolutely ruined against Chelsea, and then poor results against Ipswich and Forest in there as well. But yeah, so Spurs obviously go there this weekend, and that looks like a good fixture. They've got West Ham, who've not been playing great. Palace also. Villa can't keep a clean sheet. Ipswich away from home they're not as good as at home. So the next 5 fixtures are like a plum. They've got a City fixture away, which, anything can happen in that game. Then back after that, Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, a game against Liverpool. And like we said against Chelsea, like the big teams are like broken up by a lot of the smaller teams, then Forest, Wolves and Newcastle. So basically from this weekend, I would say until, the first game week next year, they've only got like one tough game on paper, Man City away. So I think there's a lot of reason to be interested in Spurs from now. And anyway, just highlight a few of the picks really. I must talk about Solanke first, and we mentioned the price rise. So he's scored back-to-back games now. He looks good. And the fixtures he's played, which is 4 of them, he's only missed 3 minutes. So we knew at the start of the season that Ange would be loyal to his central striker because he's done it before, and it looks like Solanke's filling that centre forward role really well, and he's providing really reliable minutes, which is what we want.
Kind of player they've needed since Kane, of just someone who's just going to poach those little tap in goals, like his goal last week, just the tap in goal at the off the rebound, I think it was, wasn't it?
I swear, like he hasn't scored a goal which isn't a tap in yet as well. Like they all feel like they've just come back off even in the Europa League game. But in the last 2 game weeks, he's had 7 big chances, an XG of 2.9. So he's had a good game, obviously, against Man United when they went down to 10 men, but he battered Brentford as well, and it was unlucky not to get more. So I think Solanke looks really good from the next game week. He's still a differential as well, less than 10% when I did these notes. He's probably up a little bit since then. No, 9.8. So he's still a big differential against the template, which is great. Other players, I've actually been quite impressed with Johnson as well this season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think he's like such a sleeper pick as well. 1.6%. He's got 4 returns. Admittedly, 3 of them are in the last 2 games, but I feel like that's where Spurs are picking up a bit of momentum. He started all of the games apart from the away game against Newcastle. He's not as good for minutes. Like he's only played 90 once this season, but he's had 18 shots in the box this season. Son has had 3. I couldn't believe that.
Do you think they're better without Son? Johnson, Kulusevski, Solanke, Maddison, all those 4 starting as a front 4?
They look pretty slick against United, I have to say. And in the opening game of the season against Leicester away, Son just seemed, I don't know, just not quick enough to it. Like I'm looking at his numbers now, and he's had 2 games where he's popped off and got a 16 and a 10-point haul, but. Yeah, I just think they played well in that United game, and I appreciate it's a small sample size, but I was surprised to see that, on the other side to Son, Johnson has looked pretty good and seems to be getting the majority of shots in the box. He just looks a good pick, 1.2%, 6.4 million, and he's sort of provides good value, I think. And then the other person to mention, still on the Spurs side of things, Maddison. Obviously, as well, 4% owned, so he's a bit more in a few more teams than Johnson. He's had 4 attacking returns in 6 matches this season. I was surprised he hasn't played a full 90. I thought that was perhaps management, maybe, of the injuries after missing a large part of last season.
Yeah,
he's a funny price point and player, I think, this season. So versus mids at 7.5 million price point, he's 8th for XG. Johnson is top of all mids, 7.5 million under. And he's 2nd for expected assists, only behind McNeil. So he's kind of like a more expensive McNeil. So he's not as explosive, but he's in a better team. So I feel like there's lots.
Just get Johnson, basically.
Yeah, just get Johnson
if you want to go there.
I think it's just a nice differential as well, because I don't think many people are going to go there. What do you think about the Spurs players? Are you looking at any of them from next game week or even from this one?
Well, like Palmer. Johnson, well, not Johnson, Solanke, And then like Foden, as people are talking about in the chat, like those three players are the reasons why I'm considering a wild card this week, because you get on them early or early enough. Like Solanke under 10% is really good, and he's looking so good. So, and he's if you're gonna pick him, he's the one getting the 90 minutes. So, you know he's gonna be on the field for those tap-ins. Yeah, I really like Solanke. I was between him and Havertz last week, and yeah, just get one of them, pick them, and just keep them in as well. Like as long as they're starting the games, those fixtures are just there for the taking.
Definitely. And I think there's even a case for the defence as well. Like Porro against Romero I looked at. And it could actually be a case for picking Romero over Porro if you need to save like a bit of money. So they actually compare quite similarly. So Romero has 0.8 XG for the season. Porro's got 0.4. And then you flip that for expected assists, basically. Expected assists, Romero's had 0.4 and Porro's had 0.8. So really, like collectively, there's not much between them apart from price at the moment. So it's just whether you're gambling on one to be more likely involved with goals or one to be more likely involved with assists, and it is Romero that actually leads Porro overall in the points for Spurs so far this season.
Yeah, I think Van der Ven is not a bad pick either. Like 4.5 million. Assuming he just stays fit. Like you saw his assist last week, he can do that sort of thing, and he's got a good goal in him as well. So yeah, if you want to go cheaper, Van der Ven is perfectly good as well, I think. Yeah, but Romero does have a very very good threat from set pieces. Just like not quite as good as Gabriel, but it's not far off.
He's good, yeah. No, like it. So yeah, lots to say I think about Spurs, and good fixture run starting now, and I think it's an important. Even though I've just wildcarded, I feel like in a couple of fixtures there's good pivot points, like people are mentioning in the chat with Foden and Solanke, and yeah, pivoting to those players at the right time is what's going to make a difference in shooting up really.
Yep. Okay. Anything more?
No, not really anything more to say on Spurs, to be honest.
Okay, so next topic, Arsenal defense. Like a lot of people were considering triples, doubles. Even people on wildcard this week or next week will be considering 1 or 2 plus or maybe even 3. So yeah, 3 out of 6 clean sheets so far. But in the ones they've conceded, so they conceded 2 plus in 2 of the 3 clean sheet wipes, which is obviously not a good sign. They're actually see as a team, as we've mentioned before, 6.9, which is 8th overall. So yeah, nowhere near their sort of standards of last season, where they were top for basically the whole thing, and they were just looking imperious, to be honest. As I said as well, 95 shots conceded, which is 17th worst in the Premier League, which is kind of, I guess that's the reason why Raya is doing so well, because he's facing these shots and getting the saves. 11 big chances conceded as well, which is 7th best. So not great on that sort of side either. Like obviously 7th is okay, but like for their standards, not great. So 53% of all their chances conceded are centrally, which I thought was strange, because that's where we think they're the strongest with Saliba and Gabriel. So I don't know, maybe something is off between those two a little bit. Maybe the sort of partnership is dwindling. I don't know, maybe we start to see one of them get rotated. I mean, probably not, but it's clearly something is not quite working there.
I do think it's interesting they do keep switching the defence around. Like we kind of expected that to happen, but I think towards the end of last season they had a fairly settled defence. Like White, Gabriel, and Saliba played pretty much most of the games. Yeah, and even the left back towards the end of the season, whether it was it Kivior?
Yeah, and then little bits of Tomiyasu. It's
But I feel like because they've got Timber and Calafiori now, and White has had that small knock, it has maybe maybe that's mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah. So overall they're joint second for clean sheets on 3 behind Liverpool on 4. I think they were fortunate to keep 3, obviously due to Watkins' sort of rustiness in game week 2 with those 2 massive chances that he missed. So if they were down on 2 clean sheets, would people be looking at double defense, triple defense? Probably not. So yeah, will the defense improve? Like the next 2 opponents, obviously they had Leicester at home last week, so we were expecting something there as well, which didn't happen. They conceded 2. But yeah, 2 good goals, admittedly. Next 2 opponents, Southampton at home, then Bournemouth away. So Southampton's XG is 7.58, which is 13th of all teams. They've had 68 shots, which is 15th, and then 13 big chances themselves, which is 12th. So that attack is not looking great. So that looks like a really good chance of a clean sheet. Bournemouth's XG, 10.15, which is 7th overall, 98 shots, so a good 30 more than Southampton had, which is 3rd, and then 14 big chances, which is 11th. So that Bournemouth away game looks like it's probably not going to be a clean sheet. Like, I mean, it certainly could be, but the odds on is that Bournemouth will probably score one. Their attack looks pretty decent. Then they obviously have Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea in a row. So,
this is why I didn't go Raya, because I'd be looking at the fixtures now thinking, oh my God, I need to sell Raya to get funds for somewhere else. I just don't fancy it.
Those 3 in a row, like those 3 are good attacking teams. And you're not going to be expecting clean sheets. I mean, they obviously could. They could just win a 1-0 or something like that. They've done it plenty of times before, but on paper, it doesn't look great.
No.
So one possible clean sheet on paper, one clean sheet in the next 5 looks likely.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the outcome of the rest probably concede. So wildcard 6s, doubles or triples to me looked good considering the Leicester fixture, but obviously now it doesn't look great. So Gabriel, like, should you have Gabriel? Yes, you should. So, he's still worth it. Like 6.2 million, 24% owned. So he's still like low owned, to be honest. Top scoring defender, top for XG of 1.27. He's first for big chances himself of defenders, 3rd for shots as well on 8. So yeah, absolutely worth having him for me. Start him every game. Just don't worry about it because he's got the chance of the attacking returns. And then just a note on just Calafiori, like started the last 2 in a row. He started last night up against PSG as well. 5.8 million, so he's dropped twice in price. He's 1.9% owned, so he's a big differential. I think we've seen with Arteta when a player performs, like he sticks in the team. So he's 4 shots, so it's a little bit less than Gabriel. 1 big chance, XG of 0.5 and an XA of 0.28. So he is second behind Gabriel in the team for basically everything. But he is far surpassing someone like Saliba, who's in my team, who's had 0 shots, 0 big chances, 0 XG. Like, he's had nothing. He's done nothing attacking wise at all. And even though he is in the box, he's not getting. This is probably planned for them. It just seems to be planned that Gabriel is going to be the one that attacks the headers, and Saliba is not getting that at all now. So, Calafiori has scored already as well. So he could be someone if you do want to double up at any point, like Calafiori might be the way to go for instead of Saliba.
Do you know how long White's out for?
Honestly, I have no idea. To be honest,
I have no idea. I think I'm just having a look at the other minutes as well. Like Timber has played every game. He started the last 5 and played 90 minutes in the last 4, and he's got 4, 2, and 5. He's for 5.5 million, he's not a bad. But like you say, now I don't know if it's the time to double up on them. I kind of feel like it would have been before the last game week if you were going to do it.
Yeah, Timber was 4.5 million in Champions League fantasy. For anyone who went there last night against PSG, that's good value.
I like it. Yeah, it's yeah, I agree about the Arsenal defence. I did quite a lot of looking into it last week because Raya was so popular, and I was pretty adamant the whole. It might come back to bite me like in the next 2 weeks. Maybe he keeps some clean sheets and does some worldy saves. But the fact that they had such high expected goals conceded, like they had 2 games in Brighton and Villa where it was over 1, and even that Tottenham game which was quite high. And I don't know. I don't like spending a lot on a goalkeeper anyway. And I admit he's had obviously a really good start to the season. But there's other goalkeepers who are less expensive who will provide good value over the course of a season. And
I think I agree.
I would rather have a defender, I think, if they were more nailed.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at wildcard, you pick Gabriel for the next 2, play him in the others. But then if you want to like hold off, or if you want to start going double defense from 12 onwards, their run is 12 to but again basically the end of the season. That you could just have Gabriel for the whole thing from 12 onwards. Because those fixtures look fantastic. Then
they've just got a block of tricky ones back to back to back.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more to mention on Arsenal?
Nope.
Well, let's just do a little bit on captaincy, and then we'll share our team, shall we? So, yeah, I suppose it's a real question for you mainly, and maybe for me a little bit. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about whether captaincy was a foregone conclusion. I spoke about this to you just before we came on, and I said it obviously wouldn't be the armband if I was talking about it. Haaland isn't going to haul in every game, and Newcastle showed that. I feel like I definitely had the blinkers on. Like, as soon as game week 6 like even loaded up and I played my wild card, I didn't even think about moving the armband from him. And for the week, I was just like, oh yeah, that's an easy decision. Obviously it bore out that he blanked and he had his first blank of the season, but I just wondered what learning maybe could come off the back of that. Like, Newcastle did have the 6th worst defensive record heading into that game. Yet he still blanked. We talked about like maybe Rodri missing, but you're right, he didn't start the season. Maybe Newcastle played okay because they had the week off to prepare for it because they had Carabao Cup game and it was the morning kickoff and you don't captain players in the early kickoff. I don't know. It was just like a lot of things that made me think, right, have I got to look at it again this weekend? So I had a look at the numbers. So Fulham away from home this season, they've 3.8 expected goals conceded, which is the 6th best record, so that's not bad, and 2.5 of that was against United in the first game week. But the other fixtures for comparison were against Forest and Southampton, so I think it's too early to get like a good sample size on them. City at home this season have got expected goals of 7.3, that's in total, that's second best record behind Arsenal, that's probably not really a surprise. Like, my non-stats take on it, which has sort of changed since the weekend, is that with Foden in the team, he takes quite a large share of the expected goal involvement. Like, even last night in the Champions League game, I watched like the extended highlights of that just to see how Foden looked, and he had so many chances, or like he didn't pass. I felt like when Foden wasn't in the team, it was basically all the chances were being funneled to Haaland, whereas last night it felt like much more of a 50-50 split. I haven't got the numbers on it, but just from watching it, just kind of reminded me a little bit of last season.
Music to my ears.
I know. I mean, I showed you that graphic of... Let's see if I can find it actually on here. I showed you that graphic earlier. I think Haaland had 10 touches last night. 5 of them were shots. I'll look up and see if I can find how many Foden had while I'm just chatting about this. But yeah, I just feel like with Foden coming back in the team, does it nullify Haaland's appeal? And then I get round in my brain to the question again as if he were worth the 15. But so far this season, he's averaged 13 points at home, and he needs to keep averaging that to sort of justify his price. So yeah, it's this and the next few games. Obviously, Haaland's fixtures are great.
He could do though. Yeah, like I said, the fixtures are amazing. Yeah. So yeah,
the fixtures...
it's hard to justify not picking him now. Yeah. I mean, it's even harder for me. But the Foden thing is possibly a thing. Like we saw Foden get hat-tricks last season and Haaland not do much in those games. So yeah.
I mean, the next 5 games look as good a block as he's probably going to have all season. Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton. And Pep said after the game last night, he will play 90 minutes, and he only took him off because he said something about his toe injury, but he said something like Haaland will play 90 minutes. So, yeah, I've got obviously no problem with captaining him, but it just made me think, do I need to think about it more?
I assume you'll be on it this week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. So I think the main opposition to captaincy this week, which is obviously where I want to get your thought because you don't have him. So Southampton away for Arsenal, obviously 4.4 expected goals conceded. It's actually pretty good, 10th best or mid-table. They've conceded 7, so they've conceded far more than their expected goals conceded. Arsenal's XG, like I mentioned a minute ago, 8.5. That's actually the best, massively boosted by that Leicester game. Saka's numbers in the Leicester game were good from like a creative point of view. He had 8 key passes, 4 big chances created, but only 4 shots in the box. None of them were like deemed a big chance. I think the major...
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
But the major criticism of him from an FPL point of view is that he rarely hauls, I suppose, but he's super consistent. 1 double digit so far, home against very bad Wolves side, so maybe he can do the same against Southampton. I think perhaps the other option for your team would be Watkins maybe. So Man United have an expected goals conceded of 11.1 total so far this season. That's the 4th worst. So United play Porto Thursday evening, then they turn around to Villa on Sunday, who I think Villa play tonight, don't they, in the Champions League?
They do, yeah.
So obviously Villa get a day extra rest and they're not travelling. Watkins has now got 6 returns in 4 games, 2 double-digit returns in that time with an average of 8.7 points per game. 9 big chances in the last 4 for Watkins is 2 more than the next best player in the league, and his expected goals of 2.75 is actually the 5th best. of all players. So he's really shooting up like to premium territory again. And I think probably, even though on paper the Southampton fixture looks good, I think Watkins against Man United I feel like there's much more chance of United having a crisis than Southampton.
It should be a much more open game for Villa as well.
I agree.
Like, because Man United should attack as well, so Watkins is going to get chances on the break as well.
Yeah.
Whereas Saka's probably going to be working against a low block, and I mean, he could do well for assists in that game, but he's probably not going to get much in terms of goal chances. I don't think so. Yeah, I was certainly looking at Saka, but yeah, Watkins. That's a good case for Watkins.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at, just going back to Foden now. It's finally loaded. So yeah, he had 5 shots last night, which I think 5 shots hit work, which I think is the same amount as Haaland. So yeah, he had 5 as well. So I think if probably this is just like such a grass test, but based on last season and last night when Foden's in the team, he's a lot more shot savvy, let's say, than than a De Bruyne that might play there, or Bernardo. So yeah, I feel like with Foden back, it probably makes Haaland captaincy less enticing.
What's your opinion on Foden going forward, considering he looks like he's back and ready to go?
I think the fact that De Bruyne's out until the international break helps his claim to start this weekend. I didn't like that. Like, Pep seemed a bit funny about talking about him after the Newcastle game. Like, oh yeah, he is fit, but then it was like, why hasn't he been playing? But maybe he's just been easing him in. Yeah, I mean, Foden had such a great season. He looked really sharp last night in the number 10 role. That's the only thing we've pretty much got to go on. He looked good against Newcastle when he came on, and he had a couple of good chances towards the end, I remember, that he could have returned. So yeah,
I've got good memories of last season of getting on him early, and he got his hat trick, and he got a few big hauls back to back.
Yeah.
And then loads of people got onto him, and he started getting rotated and started blanking. But his season last year was so good that I think he can't just keep not playing. Like, it just makes no sense. And considering he's got back last night, and he's actually got some minutes in him now, like he should be fine to get. Like that is a reason why I'm thinking the wild card too.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, I think he looks good. And like I said, City's fixtures these next 5 are not going to be any better, I don't think so, this season. So yeah, I mean, to still have Haaland, or to have Haaland in my team, and I'm really betting on him to do as well as he has been doing, basically, because that's what I need to do better.
Assuming like Haaland, like obviously their fixtures are like so good, right? Assuming he blanks maybe like 2 of the next like 4, how would you just like continue leave it on him?
No, I don't think so.
Would you leave him in, or
that's why I'm kind of saying about he's got to like this is like the block really where he's got to justify it. Like, this is why part of the reason why I kept him for these 5. And I agree. I think teams where if you feel good enough like you do to go against him, and some weeks it's gonna like, I think that's why this season's great, because you can't have all of them.
Yeah.
And you've just got to make sure you're betting on them in the right fixtures, basically. So I'm betting on Haaland for these fixtures, but if he doesn't do it, then it's reason to not have him. And I think maybe a team where, like you're suggesting, where you maybe don't have Haaland or you don't have Salah, you can get to Saka, Palmer, Havertz, Watkins. There's like a nice balance of players there, but it's just then you've got to feel confident about captaincy. So I think that's what we talk about every week, what good pricing has done to the game this season, and I think what's going to make it a difficult season to do well in, I think, because you're always going to be jealous of the other premiums. I think, look at you now, you're jealous of Palmer and Foden.
Yeah, true. I think weirdly enough, I feel more confident about backing against him than I ever have for some reason. I don't know what, even though he's
done really well.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, just these last few blanks and him not doing too much. Last night, obviously, he did score, but in the Champions League. But yeah, Foden coming back, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel like the combination of like mid-price premiums, I feel like is going to outscore it. Like I said, with Palmer, just like matching him and being a midfielder, and his fixtures are decent enough still as well. Like it's
I'd be absolutely stupid, I think, though, to take him out ahead of Southampton at home. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, he is another possible for triple captaincy. Anyway.
Yeah, Yeah, if I'm looking at triple captaincy, because obviously I've not played that yet, like Haaland is going to be the safest place to put that, isn't he? So I may need to own him at some point this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not going to get many double game weeks that we know of. So yeah. All right. Should we talk about our teams briefly? Should we rippy wrap?
Yeah.
You might play the wild card. I'm showing your team first. I'm showing your non-wild card team.
Yeah. So this is it as of right
Look
now.
At your Brighton bench. You love Brighton.
Yeah. Shame. I've kept Pedro last week, so I thought like it's probably not a long-term thing. But at the same time, he's red flagged, and we have no idea when he'll be back. So that's annoying. But he's good value when he plays. So, you know. But yeah, on paper, my team looks okay. But I'm just missing like Lewis looks like he's such a good value again. Like he's played in like high up in the Champions League, created assists. I think he got an assist, like created a good few chances as well. Like Lewis seems like I should absolutely just be getting him. And then I'm looking at Palmer, I'm looking at Foden, keeping Saka for this week, obviously, like Trent and but yeah, this week it doesn't look that bad on paper, but the issue is possibly captaincy, not having Gabriel. Like Gabriel seems like primed for a header against Southampton for sure. I still got Henderson stinking up my team. Porro is doing nothing nowadays.
No, you got a clean sheet.
He got a clean sheet, yeah, but he's attacking. I want him for attacking returns, and he's just doing nothing. So, on paper, like it doesn't look too bad, but on paper at the same time, I feel like I could get a much better team out if I want.
Yeah, like I said to you, I'm super jealous about not having Havertz this week. He looks good.
I could simply just do like a dunk to Lewis and bench Smith Rowe, and my team would look okay. But then at the same time, like Lewis benching is not too far away, and I'd have 0 bench then. So
I know that's the thing. Like we said, that's the thing I just don't trust about Lewis. Like I don't trust City for clean sheets, and which is crazy, but I just don't. And I don't trust Lewis for mins.
So, I'm getting onto the point where I think I do trust him, but
that's difficult. Yeah, no, I like so. What moves are you thinking of doing then? If not, or just rolling?
So yeah, possibly dunk to Lewis.
Okay.
Considering Pedro to Lewis, Pedro Porro. And then I was trying to look at a way to get Solanke, but from Pedro, but I'm like 0.6 short. So anything to get Solanke would be like hit inducing, and I don't really want to do that. Yeah.
So you can't do Pedro Porro to Matey.
I could do Porro to like
Lewis,
Vardiol or something. I could do that. Like I've got 1.5 in the bank, I think.
Okay.
Do I have 1.5? Yeah, I've got 1.5. So I do have options, but it's just I don't want to sell Havertz or Watkins, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just Pedro up to like the only striker I want other than Haaland, obviously, would be Solanke for this week, and I just can't quite afford it from Pedro. So you
could sell Smith Rowe to like a 4.5 million mid, and then upgrade Pedro to Solanke, and then but that's like a minus.
Is that worth a hit? Like I'm not sure.
Probably not.
No,
fair enough. And what about captaincy? You've got Salah in the first kickoff of the first game of the weekend.
Yeah, that's really just after last week. I'm tempted by Watkins now after you said all that. Like I like that shout, to be honest.
And it's on TV on Sunday.
Yeah, Watkins with Saka vice seems quite good.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's probably the best I think it's probably quite telling that why Saka's maybe not a good long-term hold is because it's probably his best fixture of the season, and even though he's got Southampton at home, you're probably not thinking about captaining him, and even he's not a strong enough sway from
but he did score last night, so he has got goals in him. He's scored against PSG, so that's a tough.
But he doesn't
game.
Haul, I don't think. But anyway, he does score, but he doesn't haul. Like if he flipped it, if it was the same week that Haaland was at home to, let's say, Fulham, and but let's just flip the team now. If Palmer was at home to Southampton this week, it'd be such an easy decision, I think, for you. But Saka, you're like, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference. All right.
I think he's fine value. Like he's not hauling, but like 10 million for like assists and some bonus, and then the odd. He just needs a game where he gets an assist plus a penalty or something. Like people are just going to start to think completely different about him again. So yeah, I think he's fine to hold if you're looking at selling him or something. Like Saka is good value still.
No, agree. All right. My team's really not much to say because, like I said, I played the wild card. Pretty happy with how it looks, regardless of last week. So I'm going to captain Haaland. Vice captaincy is going to be on Watkins. Playing Greaves against West Ham rather than Milenkovic. Got my 2 budget-y defenders. I think the rest of it, Diaz, I'm quite happy to own still. See how he looks tonight. Calvert-Lewin, I think, was probably a bit unlucky, even though he's pants. Yeah, team's alright. Gabriel, maybe he needs that bullet header. I think it's okay, but yeah, I think a lot of like we said, a lot of this team relies on Haaland, and I've already been, like I said, I've already been looking at ways that if Haaland is disappointing, it's quite. I'm not going to make any transfers. I think now for 3 game weeks. Pretty much, I'm trying to look at it. Even if players are out, I'm just going to use my bench, and then maybe be able to make a move quite quickly to Solanke and Palmer, one way or another. There should be some Watkins and Diaz and Calvert-Lewin jiggery pokery. So, yeah, trying to leave that open.
Opinions on Diaz after the 1 week of owning him?
To be honest, because I didn't watch the game, I can't really say much on it. Yeah, don't know. Obviously not good because he didn't return, but he's either blanked or got a double-digit haul this season. So I'm hoping it's the double-digit haul.
He's got a good fixture for it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean he's only 8 points behind Palmer this season. So yeah, he's had, when you put it like that, I think he still seems like a hold to me. Liverpool are playing well. He's in a good team. He's going to get subbed early. Just hopefully he can return before he gets subbed.
And put a bet on Mbeumo scoring in the first minute again.
I know, right? That's so weird.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
Imagine if they do it again. That would be.
Yeah. No, cool. All right, let's just have a quick read through the chat, see what we've missed it, because I feel like there's a few things in there this evening. Jam has put Gabriel captain. Gosh, imagine the balls. I'd have to do that. Maybe. When
you've got Haaland in your team, it's just that makes sense.
Difficult not to. Pat say good to have the local lad in, which is Ollie.
Yeah.
Belsic has just said, is that Palmer? Who else? Mark said, I captained Palmer last week and I took a -4 from when Gabriel went to 750 live rank at one point. Never forget it. I'm at 5k now. Nice. What a start to the season.
Yeah, decent.
That's amazing. Let's have
a
look.
There was so many people not taking part, like so many people on Wildcard 6 just like not looking at Palmer or didn't even include him at all. No. And there was people selling him after that 63-minute sub, and it was just like, my God.
I looked at
absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I looked at Jackson, but I was like so confident in having Saka just for consistent returns, and I just fancied. I mean, if you take away the scores of this past weekend, Saka and Palmer are pretty level. So, and Saka could have hauled against Leicester, and maybe it would have been a bit different. Let's have a look if there's anything else. Shagaya said, would you go VDV over Romero? Maybe.
If you need the budget, then I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kieran Wayne said, considering wildcard for Foden too. Love it. Right. I think we're going to wrap up there, aren't we?
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. Copping out just over an hour, and we'll be back next week to hear tales of woe and joy.
Yes. Hopefully joy.
Hopefully joy, yeah.
Cheers all.
Cool. Bye everyone. Bye.